The Prime Minister will meet some of his ministers today in Sydney, with the economy in focus after his election victory.
The re-elected government insisting millions of Australians will still receive their promised tax cuts despite a delay to their passage through the parliament.
The Coalition's commitment to income tax cuts was central to Scott Morrison's campaign. The Prime Minister's budget boasted tax cuts of up to $1,000 for those earning up to $126,000 a year. But the 45th Parliament never passed the package. And with the Parliament unable to be recalled until the election outcome's finalised, there's no chance they'll pass in time for the new financial year.
So that really does make very narrow that opportunity to do it before the 30th of June. I think that's very unlikely with the advice I've received.
He's now said that the Parliament won't come back and they won't pass the tax cuts, so they might need to wait a year. He said back then, it doesn't matter, Parliament doesn't need to sit, we can just do it administratively. I pointed out that that was wrong.
The Treasurer rejects that timeline.
The tax relief will be delivered as set out in the budget. There's bipartisan support, but we need to pass the legislation, and the legislation can only be passed when the Parliament resumes.
The government says there are measures they can take administratively to make sure that the tax cuts are passed as quickly as possible. Josh Frydenberg was back to work today in Canberra, meeting with officials at Treasury. And promises that the tax cuts will be applied retrospectively, with the offset to flow automatically.
As soon as the legislation is passed, people don't need to put in another tax return. They will ensure that they get the full benefit of that $1,080 for those who are eligible.
But that requires the Parliament passing the package in full, with the government confirming the entire $158 billion plan won't be split up.
It is important that this is dealt with as a package, because we're talking about not just immediate tax relief, but we're also talking about long-term structural reform.
And while the Morrison government now has a majority in the House to secure contentious cuts for high-income earners, it's the Senate that could prove the sticking point.
But it is a $20 billion decision, and our responsibility is to look at things properly.
Annalise Nielsen, Sky News, Canberra.
The man accused of carrying out the Christchurch attack, my apologies, I think we've got past our spot there now. We'll go to the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, who is set to meet the Reserve Bank Governor after the central bank signalled a likely rate cut next month. Philip Lowe has confirmed the RBA board will consider the move when it meets in a fortnight in a bid to reduce unemployment and boost inflation. The country's regulators have also eased restrictions on the first home buyer loans to deal with the country's sliding housing market. Mr Frydenberg has stressed the economy is facing headwinds, but says the government is working to strengthen it. The Coalition is set to introduce tax cuts and a stimulus package focused on winding back lending restrictions.